¿Qué tal, familia? My name is Rodrigo Garcia. I am the Artistic Director of Teatro Visión and your host for tonight. Bienvenidos a la Hora del Mitote. We thank you for joining us tonight. La Hora del Mitote se transmite cada viernes a las 7 por nuestra página de Facebook y en nuestro canal de YouTube. You can see us on Facebook and our YouTube channel. We invite you to participate by sending us your questions and comments. I would like to start off by acknowledging that we are guests here on the ancestral homeland of the Muwekma Ohlone people who continue to live and thrive in our local community today. Me gustaría comenzar reconociendo que somos huéspedes aquí en la tierra ancestral del pueblo Muwekma Ohlone que continúa viviendo y prosperando en nuestra comunidad local hoy. Pues esta noche, ¿qué creen? We have very, very special guests with us tonight. Some of our veteranos de teatro, our dear friends, Carla Pantoja, Sarita Ocón, y Hendel Hernández. Welcome to La Hora del Mitote. What a delight to have you here. Seriously, this has been a dream of mine since we started with La Hora del Mitote a few months ago. And I was hoping to have an opportunity to have you all here just for the pleasure of seeing you, but also to have this conversation among friends, that we are still connected one way or another, even though we're not physically seeing each other. But it's such a delight, and I want to thank you for taking the time. We want to invite people to send us your comments, your questions, anything that you want to share with our guests. Please send us to our comment section, and we will be reading your comments and questions throughout the program. So, nuevamente, bienvenidos y bienvenidas. So let's start by just hearing. I think the our audience wants to hear about you, and I could read everything that you sent in your bio, but I'd rather have you share a little bit about you. So, who wants to start?
Yo solo quiero decir gracias y por tenernos a nosotros, pero yo voy a darle paso a las señoritas. Así que Carla o Sarita, if you'd like to go, please. I just wanted to say hi and such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
Let's go with Sarita. You feel like you're.
I know there's such formality in these spaces, these digital spaces that we now exist in. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarita Ocón. Gosh, I'm just a creative warrior at heart, and have just been on a journey of allowing the divine to come through me and be a vessel for our stories and our histories, and to pave it forward into the future. So I'm just, I guess I've been more so through Teatro Visión. If y'all remember some of our faces, so long ago, we were babies. As an actor, but I'm also a producer, independent producer as well now. So just thrilled to be here. Thank you, Rodrigo and Teatro Visión and my family.
Yeah.
Thank you. Carla?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here and see Hendel and Rodrigo and Sarita all at the same time. It's lovely. It's wonderful. Wow. Yeah, I'm an actor. I'm also a fight director. I'm a certified stage combat instructor. I'm also coming to you from Ohlone land and in the South Bay. I've been around Teatro Visión since I looked up some of the past productions. I was like, oh my gosh. Right out of college, I looked up Teatro Visión and I was so excited. And so I contacted them and I was like, I want to be a part of this no matter what. And I remember helping to put the setup when it was at City Lights for No Se Paga, No Se Paga. And seeing that. And I was in the first show at CET when it went to there, and then the first show of Harvest Moon at with at the MHP, and that was a long time ago. And I think I've been connected to at least 17 productions at Teatro Visión, where I've definitely have learned so much and have gained such amazing friends, and will always remember my connections with exactly 1998 House on Mango Street. Oh my goodness. Listen, Diane.
La mera mera Diane Vega right there, throwing some comments up. Much love to Diane for sure.
And that's me. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so amazing. I love being here with all of y'all, nuestra familia. Just have so many fun memories. This is Hendel Hernandez. Ahora soy Hendelhin Hernandez. Como Carla, I've been kind of diving in and out of the arts and raising a family at the same time. Carla and a couple of folks started a stage combat company, and so I'm also certified through them, through Carla and that company. I love it because Sarita put it best. We're just warriors, and our paths cross, as sometimes we get to do battle together. And I just it sticks with you forever. You carry it for the rest of your life, and that's why it's like it could be years, but we're always and forever be familia. So it's so great to be here and talking to everybody, and just feeling the inspiration. I don't get to see you, but I follow Sarita and I follow Carla. I've been trying to get with Rodrigo for a couple of years, see if we could do some work together. We finally did. So it's just really great to be here. Y saludos para todos los compartientes de este teatro aquí en Teatro Visión. Great for you to be here and be a part of this. It's a great time to be here.
Thank you, the three of you, and definitely this program is not about me, but I cannot help to just share that my first production at Teatro Visión was with Sarita. The first three productions, La Víctima, Dog Lady, Evening Star, and Arivaca, where we met Gendel as well. And with Carla, I've had the opportunity to be directed by her in some fight scenes during some of the shows. And
don't forget School of the Americas.
Oh, School of the Americas, of course. And it was such a pleasure to be working with this great artist, and I feel very honored. Thank you very much. So vamos a arrancar. So I have an initial question that I want to pose to the three of you. And given all the events that we've seen, particularly last year, that have to do with public health emergency at a global level, issues of social justice in terms of racial tensions, police brutality, and also some natural disasters that have impacted our communities. I want to start by asking you how all of this has impacted your theater practice.
Ooh, we're going deep fast.
Let's
I'm like,
do it.
oof.
Let's go.
Oof.
Who wants to touch the fire first?
And just to start, I know that, for example, both Sarita and Carla had like big and very prominent presence in the last year to start with productions, and suddenly, boom,
Just like that. Just like that.
So share with us how all this has impacted you.
I think the question comes in two ways. I think like how has it impacted you as an artist, right? And I think artists were survivors, right? So we're always going to be engaging and trying to find a way. And it's not about the no's, it's about getting to that yes and getting that job. And then how has it impacted us as art, as people, right? And I'm just gonna say for myself, I think it's motivated me, and I'm trying not to say it's radicalized me, but it's definitely lifted my energy, to really be presente and really really step up, because this thing that's been happening, I think really affects our community, right? And I think that like the best thing that I could do is use the tool that I feel that I've been given some small understanding of, that is theater, and to use that to sort of make people aware, and I try to cause some type of change that benefits all of us, not just some of us. And I think that like with the pandemic, I think that we can see, and that's why I divide the question, because I think like as a person, I could no longer sort of create, just happy. I want to create art that is makes people happy and makes people uplifted and feel good. But now I have to create art that addresses this, right? We can't let it go by, because to let it go by is to let it continue. And to let it continue is to hurt our community. And so for me, it's really changed me. It's really made me like step up and really be present, and really not back off from like these difficult conversations, both in art and in my personal life. And I hope that is reflected in my art, and in the art that I've been sort of creating. I don't want to hug the mic because I know passionate. We're all artists, like taught to express ourselves. But yeah, it's up. Like it's time. Let's go. It's time. Like it's time to step up, and it's time to show up y be presente, porque si no vamos a poder formar parte de la comunidad. Vamos a estar en las afueras. Y esta comunidad es tanto para nosotros como para todo el mundo. Y tenemos que, we need to be present and show that this is ours. Not ours, like, it's for all of us. It's for all of us. Carla, Sarita.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, I think all of us are kind of artivists. We're artists and activists at the same time. And sometimes, I don't know, I feel like personally, I feel like you can't be an artist without being an activist in some form or another, because we are scientists of human behavior, and we kind of we're there to communicate to folks and help lift up stories that might not have been seen or heard before, even if they're hard. And we need us more than ever. We need the arts more than ever now, about communicating to folks in different ways. I think this year has been a challenge. It's true. Theater across the board, live theater has taken a tremendous hit, right? I saw a dream job. Sarita and I were up at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and we opened a show, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. But I'm healthy. My family's healthy. I'm here hanging out with my kids while they're watching TV, doing the TV babysitting. And then we've got to find ways, because art will find a way. Art has been here. We've been storytellers since the day we were born. We're communicating with each other all the time. And we will continue. And we will find another path if we have to. I've seen Zoom readings, which are exciting. I've also seen, been a part of Zoom readings where it's just friends reading a script out loud, and not for anybody, but for each other. And it's been so healing for me to remind myself, this is who I am. I tell stories. And also think about, what are the messages we can use as artists, as storytellers, to get across to folks, to help people, to move things forward. I think about Teatro Campesino and the tremendous amount of work that happened because of Teatro Campesino, and strikes and boycotts and the amazing things that happen with art in conjunction with a social justice moving forward. And I don't want to hug the mic either, so I'm gonna, because I'm also like, yeah, Kendall, yes.
It's so beautiful what you all have shared. I mean, if this is truly a conversation between friends, I have to bring forth truth and honesty in that the trajectory of the last 10 months. I think it's so complex, and there was a tremendous amount of grief and mourning. There was a tremendous amount of hurdles and obstacles to overcome. So I want to shed light on the perspective of, after, being at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, many of us had to relocate. And for myself, that wasn't necessarily on the itinerary of 2020. And so I had I think the gravity of the global pandemic, the gravity of the reckoning that we had to kind of accept as a country, even though I think as communities of color, for our Black, Indigenous, and people of color, kind of our familias, at large, we've experienced this ongoing oppressive, systemic issues of racism and economic injustice, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think there was a lot of things happening. It just felt like one big snowball effect. And my spirit was very open, and I'm a deep empath artist, as well as an advocate and an activist. And I think because my heart space was so open, it just meant I was going to be feeling the intensity. I relocated back to the Bay Area, which I thought was just going to be temporary. And now there's a process of accepting the unknown and accepting uncertainty as your guide. And so now I'm still here. I'm still in Oakland. And that experience has been isolating alone. I'm grateful I have a beautiful roommate with such a full heart who kind of welcomed me into her space. But there's been a lot of really lonely, isolating moments, deep solitude to kind of get closer to myself. And what I discovered was how burnt out I was as an artist, because we can't just look at what's happening externally. We also have to examine what's happening internally in our institutions that force us into certain indoctrinating ways of creating art and creating stories if you're trying to create a sustainable livelihood in theater, in regional theater. And living in the Bay Area alone is already, I think, a challenge for our artist community. And so I discovered I was burnt out. I was burnt out from the grind. I was burnt out from the hustle, from producing 1 minute to being in rehearsals to then performing a night. And I was, living the life. And I knock on wood and I'm grateful for it. But now we have an opportunity to, I think, step back a bit and really examine the institutions we've come up through, as far as artists go, as far as our artistry goes. I'm one that has always liked to defy the odds, to challenge the status quo, to make more space, to advocate for more. But I had to accept that with so much happening environmentally for us here in the Bay Area, as well as the global pandemic, and just what has just been this roller coaster, just appreciating the moments of rest. And I've kind of been on this journey of what does it truly mean, like self-preservation, so that we can get to the other side of this, because we have a long journey ahead of us. Unfortunately, I follow the New York Times, like I scrutinize the New York Times, like I'm just pulling for any article that's going to speak about the industry and performing arts in general, from ballet, opera, to music, to symphonies, to theaters, small and large, to Broadway, off-Broadway, is this very serious, having 1.4 million artists that have been under forced unemployment in this time, and what it's going to take to revive our industry, and the challenges, right, of people. I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been slowly coming out of that mourning period and that grief, and I'm looking for ways to push advocacy. So I'm very vocal amongst my tribe and community who are not artists, to make sure that they are still remembering that artists are still right now. I think we're going to be the last to really come back fully, because there are so many other components and factors to our return. We will return and we will be stronger for it. But what does it mean to take care of one another, to ensure a kind of rest, resilience, to restore our spirits? So that's kind of where I'm at. I've done a few Zoom readings and they were cool. And it's also, I guess, what it is I'm just reckoning with our institutions, and I'm reckoning with our community, because it just felt like suddenly we were just all steam ahead, taking the Zoom world, taking our artistry and forcing it into this way of being. And I think there's aspects of the digital connection that are incredible, like a fascinating tool for us. And then there's also the flip side of it that just it doesn't feel right to me. So I've actually taken the opportunity to take a step back and really examine, who am I? What type of art do I want to make? What type of advocacy is important to me? And I guess what I'll say is I'm shifting to participating in what will be a cohort of artists and colleagues to do some anti-racism training. So I'm looking forward to that kind of advocacy during this next month, 9 months. I'm also recently being part of an artist circle that's going to provide us a kind of universal base income, so that we can just be artists, and we're experimenting with that. So I guess I have little things that are cooking, but it's because I've forced myself into really going inward. Yeah.
You know, I just want to recognize really quick the real, but I mean, you know, that was just beautifully said by Sarita. And I want to acknowledge the real pain of having artists who love their work, who are invested in their work, and then you have this, you know, they're severed from their work, and so that is a really, really difficult thing, and that is a really painful thing that I think a lot of artists are privately sort of kind of going through, and also, you know, they bring it to their community, but I think a lot of artists are sort of going through that, the pain of that, and also what Sarita's saying is absolutely true. I think one when we get back, theater itself has a reckoning, and you know, before we get back on our feet, you know, we got to get our house in order, and this is what Sarita's addressing, right? Like, we don't want to put up the same house, haciendo las mismas cosas como las estábamos haciendo antes, and then we're just going to go back. We are creatures of habit after all, and so I think that is so key. You know, Sarita's always tapped in, right? I love that about Sarita, and just her work is so inspiring because of that, and I think that is exactly correct. There is no way forward, right, unless we get our house in order, or else we're just going to be revolving in the exact same practices that allowed these injustices to happen in the first place. And so I think that's exactly right. You know, talk about that's like a lot of weight that you're dealing with, this pain and this weight, and then you're also dealing with the pain of the country. And as an artist, I love Diane was talking about artists being essential workers, right? Like we
and I
bring,
appreciate that, because like, yeah, like, you know, yes, we're essential workers. You know, I think that's, sorry, Ganda, like the vocabulary, the way that I think we have to be really conscious of like what's being projected onto us, onto this moment in time. We are essential workers. We, you know, we reflect, you know, lives. We're scientists, you know, creative scientists, as Carla was saying earlier. You know, we study the human psyche, the way of being,
the reflection, our actions, like why we do that.
We're the mirrors.
Back.
Sorry,
I want to say I've heard this before, and this was brought up years ago during another time when our area is consistently being devastated by fires, and it will probably continue to do so. Climate change is real. Just in case anybody had a doubt, it's real. And it does affect us, and it affects some communities harder than others. And in, I think it was 2008, somebody quoted that artists, we're not first responders, we're second responders. Artists are second responders. We don't necessarily come in and save a life, but we come in after and remind you how to live, how to be human, to remind us of our connections to each other. And that's what it is in the theater. Another study said that totally random people, strangers, in a theater, a live theater setting, their heartbeats synced up.
Right. Yes.
How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
How beautiful is that, to be in a room with people, again, is exciting now, but but that all of a sudden you start breathing in sync, or your heartbeat starts syncing up.
We are witnessing an event together, right? You are all bearing witness to something. You can all reflect together on what, you know, on what you saw. And yeah, I absolutely believe. I mean, come on, let's be real. Everybody, you know, how am I going to cope with this? I'm going to stream, I'm going to go on a tour of a museum. And like, just there is recognition that, we artists bring healing, they bring comfort, they bring reflection, they bring so many needed things to this. And I think that's why you feel their panic too, right? Like their venue, their voice has been silenced. And so they're like, I got to jump on the Zoom or the thing, and I need to express myself. But I look forward to the time. I look forward to the time when we could get back to doing what we do. But I look forward to the time when we can have a conversation about how to not let what happen again. How can we create a sustainable world, like Sarita was saying, where we look out? Because what I wanted to say is, I think we recognize we're essential workers. I think everybody recognizes, but we're not recognized as essential workers. We are not helped. We're not backed up as essential workers. People all of a sudden are like, it's entertainment, And I know a lot of artists that, they're really, like Sarita, like Carla, like Rodrigo, like, la gente, la familia, they're putting their heart and soul into it to uplift others as humans, and this is what Carla is saying. Like, you can't do this without sort of being into the social justice thing. So anyway, I absolutely think we should be recognized as essentials, essential workers.
Absolutely. And I think based on what you said, I have some follow-up questions. But let me first just say hi to the people who are watching La Hora del Mitote. Estamos esta noche con grandes amigos y amigas. Carla Pantoja, Sarita Ocón y Hendel Hernández, whom have taken a time to be with us and share, from their heart in a very honest and open conversation entre amigos. I want to recognize some of the comments that we've had. Diane, hola, my friends. So good to see you. Miss you. Besos. Jean-Pierre Berber, hello, everyone. Jean-Pierre Berber again. Hi, Carla. We have Rosa Apodaca. Hello there. Much love from San Juan Bautista. Rosa. Tamaleras, real women have curves. Thank you for being with us tonight. Jesse Sanchez sending love to us. So, from everything that you've said, what I read an article that among the artists are the less likely to seek medical care, like preventive medical care, but particularly actors usually go to the hospital or to see a doctor when things are really, really bad. And I remember, just from my own experience in Dog Lady, I hurt my leg, but we had a show that we had to do. And for me, it was like, and it wasn't a big deal. But I've heard other stories from other colleagues. Someone, I remember David Caballero, he was in a production and he was passing stones while he was performing. And many other horror stories that we've heard of folks being injured or not feeling well, but as an artist, we need to perform because the show has to go on. And so all these happened and people were laid out or just their projects were cut off. But yet, people, because we were in this sheltering place, people were looking for ways of entertainment. And so the work of the artist was present. But yeah, there are all these folks, artists, whose life depend on the work, but yet there was not this thinking on the importance of artists. And I think what Sarita mentioned about the importance of the work that we do, but also the importance for self-preservation and, our passion to do something to address issues that need to be addressed. how do we find a balance? And in your case, how have you found a balance between this call to make a change through our art and still remain human at that, we can call it that way? What has worked with you? Where are you trying? Because I think it is important to recognize that, that people might not remember that we're also human beings with with lives. And
I'll just throw this out there really quick. It's a really difficult thing for actors to get health care. If you are a part of the actors union, which there are very few houses that sort of do union contracts, so you kind of have to really work hard to line up all the union contracts. So then you're eligible for health care. And if you're not part of the union, then you sort of you're kind of out there on your own, having to do whatever you can. So I hate to say this. I mean, I grew up like poor person style, which is just like you go when there's a problem and you don't go when there isn't a problem, because they might find a problem. And so, I think actors bring that to it. Acting is a struggle. It's a battle, and people that do it, they love it. And so they want to do it. But they get hung out there, health wise. And so self-preservation is super important, because it is not a super healthy, it's not a kind place for your health. Plus, you're emotionally and physically jumping all over the place.
I think this is the part kind of, I love this, that you brought this up, Rodrigo, because I guess I've been intentional about maybe the last 5 or so years of this kind of personal artist advocacy, which is I need to step into my creative agency, and what existed in the past is no longer okay. Because I think this kind of ties back to institutions creating the way we made art pre-COVID was in a kind of hierarchy. And so often you have the actor at the bottom of that structure as far as how we can advocate for ourselves at the creative table, how we can offer our brilliant skills and talents and ideas as collaborators in a room, as opposed to you just say lines, you go where I've told you to stand, and you just, recite the piece that we've built. And it's just something that I've been in spaces, rehearsal rooms, dressing rooms, where I hear something and I don't know, maybe it's the little warrior in me that's like, that is not okay. We've got to change the models. We've got to make the shifts. And so I guess when you ask the how do you do this? How does one, I with my mentees, I'm constantly telling them, like, your health, your wellness does come first. Do not put that off. I'm constantly advocating, if something intuitively does not feel right, be brave and speak up in the room and share your truth, not out of like a personal ego gain, right? but that is truly in honor of the work being created. That it is an offering that is of the highest good of the team and the project that's being made. But that's the hardship of what we've each have endured in different ways. And unfortunately, since we're talking about health, it's going to be really fascinating to see what happens as we come out of this, because our unions have currently changed some of our requirements, which during a pandemic is outrageous. So I have my own kind of heat and reckoning with, is a union truly serving my best interest, or what do we do now? Because, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's cyclical, and we're kind of in the mess of it. But my hope is we will rally together to say this, and I'm not just talking the Actors Equity Union for theater, but I'm also talking SAG and AFTRA unions, because I have friends that are also going through, suddenly our health weeks are changing, or our premiums are changing, all when no one is working.
Yeah. But
what a great idea.
Right? Yeah. No, but this is the part of the institutional thing, right? Like these things were not set up to help you, you know, like I've reckoned with this a lot too. I don't use, I mean, I'm part of the union and all that, but I don't use their system. I think their system is not healthy for, and so I do my art and I jump in, but I don't utilize their system, because it's not good for you.
Up until you have to meet a certain criteria to get those. As a union member, I've only been eligible to receive health through my union for certain windows, and even then I still don't make enough that the state is like, yeah, just stay where you're at. it's not there's no point. You can't afford it. You can't afford the union healthcare. I think what we're talking about, so many different things, you know, Sarita was definitely the institutions, not just the institutions of theater companies or arts organizations, but also the training. Our training programs also there needs to be some accountability there. So many times, actors, I know I've definitely had this forced on me, and I try to break the cycle of, you know, say yes, and always say yes. And it's easier to advocate for other people than it is for myself, I've found. It's easier for me as a fight director to also step in and say, hey, that's not safe. I don't want you to do that stunt, because that could be a career-ending injury for you. My job as a fight director, and I'm also training as an intimacy director, is to make sure people get to the other side safely, both mentally and physically, because it's not worth it. This is our lives. Our bodies are our tools. Our voices are our tools. If we can't get safely to the other side, then it's not art, it's abuse. And I'm concerned right now how, you know, folks are pushing ahead with Zoom shows, which, you know, however folks want to connect with their art, you know, as Gendel was saying, you know, there's a loss there, and people are like, I'm gonna make a song and I'm gonna put it on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Great. If you want to create art, please create art, because somebody needs that as their lifeline. And maybe it's not for you either. I'm worried about folks' internet, like, so will that become a casting requirement now? Do you have to put in, like, yeah, I have so many, my bandwidth is blah, blah, blah. I have data at blah, blah, blah. So does that mean that we lose voices?
Right.
Do we lose people's ability to be here? We know that, what was it, 14,000 jobs were gone, and all of them were from women. I mean, that's crazy. This week I attended a COVID informational meeting, and specifically for Latinx people, that said 43%, something like that, of the deaths in California are Latinx people. We are the ones who are affected even more, because a lot of times we have jobs, and just like actors, if you don't work, you don't get paid. And that's where folks could potentially be putting themselves at risk and their families at risk, because if you don't work, you don't get paid. And I get that, because
Well, here in Santa Clara County, close to 60% of all the cases are Latinx folks. And when you look at the areas that are most affected, East San Jose, South Bay, and the deaths in comparison to mainstream white, it's very disproportionate. It's terrible. But something I wanted to add something, when we're talking about institutions, there's also the funding. It's like they're already broken institutions in between, but then when it comes to funding, the funding is not dispersed equally.
Nope.
And not equally, but equitably, in an equitable way. And folks who are not part of a particular group will have even less chance on top of all the other systemic issues that exist. And it's no surprise all the Latinx or artists of color who, on top of their work, they need to deal with all of these other issues of just to survive.
I just wanted to just say, like, what Sarita's saying is so important. This is why we can't go back to the way that how things were before. If you'll indulge me for a second, I just want to say, like, this is going to sound a little radical, but like,
bring some radical.
Right, here we go. Let's do this. So no, vivimos en un sistema capitalista. It's a capitalist system. So what does that mean? You build capital, and when you have capital, you could do stuff. So who was here to build capital first, right? So they set up this. That's the system that's set up to help, right? And so that's first. Who got the capital first? They're first, right? And like you don't need to hypothesize about this. You could look at the Constitution and see land white owning males, and from there, right, we sort of just started adding folks, right? But you need to understand that that's how the system was. That's how the system was set up, and so these are the trickle down avenues that's why it doesn't get to everybody. I want to just say to everybody that I'm an immigrant. I came here from another country, and I always felt like, this is somebody that's la casa de otra persona. I got to be careful. What's wrong, officer? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. But once I became a citizen and all this stuff, and meeting people like Sarita and Carla, Rodrigo, I'm like, this belongs to all of us. We came here, right, to be a part of something where we could be included. Right. And so that's why I think it's so important. Latinx people are feeling the pain because they're excluded. They're on the outside because the people with the capital, right, they got these avenues that are all set up for them. And so we're on the outskirts. And so we get that. We get we don't get the good stuff. We're not included in that. But I want to encourage everybody. We have ownership over this system as much as anybody else. And that's why it's important to step up and to say something and to stir the shit up. To stir the shit up, right? Like Sarita, and Sarita is the most respectful shit stirrer ever. She'll not let you get away from it, and that's exactly right. We cannot go back, because going back is exactly what you're saying. If this happens again, who's going to get hurt again? It's going to be us. They're not going to change it. They've had hundreds of years to do what they've been doing, and by they, I just mean the people with access. That's why I think it's great what Sarita's saying. We need to open doors, not close them. Like Carla's saying, with the technology, all this stuff, this is closing doors. So how can we open doors to people to have equitable access to all of it, economic, health, expression, all of it.
And Diane asked a great question, which was, have we read the We See You White America Theater document? And I just encourage everyone part of the Teatro Visión community right now tuning in, or Rodrigo, I don't know if you guys have that accessible via the website. I think it's really important, even for our young people, to be researching and reviewing what that document says, because you know, I'm all about the next generation as well. And so I just think it's important for us to understand the context of American theater and the pillars that it has been built upon, and how we're going to do our best as BIPOC community of artists and colleagues, designers, I mean, such talented minds throughout the entire field across the country, what we're going to do to be able to return to these institutions, because it's not enough to just say, wow, look at, we have our Black August Wilson play, and we have our House on Mango Street play, and oh, look at that, we crunch the numbers, and this is how much diversity we have. I think we have to, my hope and of encouragement to anyone who's watching right now, again, like, I think it's when we can empower ourselves with the knowledge and the information, we have the tools, we can begin paving a new way forward. And that's kind of, I don't know what it looks like, you know, because I'm resisting from wanting to venture towards what Gandel was talking about, that capitalistic model, right? That we've all been, it's all kind of in our DNA. You know, you can't, how do you begin to imagine something new? And I think one of the best avenues right now is to listen deeply and to get all of this information. I don't know what it looks like, but to be okay with that uncertainty and to trust that we're all going to hold each other through that process. Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned it, I just want to read the first paragraph of this document that you can see on the website. We see uwat.com. We see you, White American Theater. It says, "Dear White American Theater, we come together as a community of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC theater makers in the legacy of August Wilson's The Ground on Which I Stand, to let you know exactly what ground we stand on in the wake of our nation's civic unrest. We see you. We have always seen you. We have watched you pretend not to see us." Such a powerful statement that talks about that self-efficacy that we as individuals and as a collective, we need to build to make sure that things do not go back to the way they were. And this is going to be an ongoing, long-term work. But, you know, in the few minutes that we have left, I think this really takes us to the next part, which is, what have you learned so far, or what are your takeaways so far that will impact your future? And your future, it can be in the next hour or in the next decades. And let me just read one comment from one of our from Diane. "We need BIPOC artists to rise into leadership roles." And Corina, saludos Corina, "Looking forward to reading the entire document. As a mother, of a young teatrista, I want to thank you all for this plática. As a community member, I look forward to continuing to support teatro." Muchas gracias. Saludos. So, what are some of the lessons learned, and what is the future looking like for you?
I think I'm still learning deep lessons. I think I'm giving myself permission to continue being still. I am saying more no's than yeses, but it's with intention and purpose. I think I'm also, you know, as what Diane had put, which is BIPOC artists rising into leadership roles, I'm kind of using this time to look more intensely at producing and leadership. It's kind of it's pulling at my heartstrings. So I'm gonna kind of use the time to kind of see what else is there. But I feel like we're in it, and it's messy, and I think I'm still like excavating what all the lessons are, and I may not, I'm in a lesson right now, and I can't articulate what it is, but all I can do is just kind of open my senses up and try and stay attuned to everything that's coming up. And there's a lot of rage. There's still a lot of grief. And then there's also a kind of resilience that's kind of coming forward. I just don't know what it's going to be just yet. And I guess last thing is that I'm giving myself permission to be okay with holding that uncertainty, because it's all new right now.
I have to say, like, kind of from both is to understand that, yes, it's still, this is still a work in progress. We are still in the middle. Mm-hmm. We may see a little glimmer of light at the end of this tunnel, but we're also digging the tunnel at the same time. We're in it. We're shoring it up as best we can. But like Gendel had said, now's not the time to be quiet. For myself, I've been in this theater community for a long time. As Diana put out a day. So I know, right? Thank you, Rodrigo.
No need to bring up the 90s.
Thank you. No, so I have to acknowledge that I have a place of privilege with some theater companies because I've been around a long time, and I acknowledge that sometimes I will willingly swim in toxic waters so that I can say my truth and open some doors. And as Gendel said, now is not the time to be silent. Now is the time to make change. Now is the time for solidarity, for us to come together and make a path, not just for ourselves, but for the folks who are coming up after us. So that, yes, we do need more BIPOC leadership, but the space has to be ready. So many times we see folks, we'll just throw somebody in there, and they inherit a dying company that has no money, that has so many toxic environment, and of course they're not going to succeed. And then the folks, the powers that be, are like, well, see, we gave them a theater company,
and we also need to diversify their boards. So you have a lot of BIPOC leaders stepping into leadership, and they have an all-white functioning board that don't want to advocate for the things that the new leadership is trying to bring and introduce to the theater. So like, I would almost say before leadership, we need to diversify boards. We need to go out there and look for BIPOC leaders, entrepreneurs out there, philanthropists that find culture important, and get them into those positions so that they can then be the advocate to the leader who's going to pave a new path, because there's so many intricacies.
And maybe we don't need a theater anymore.
Yeah. Maybe it's more collectives. Maybe it's tribe-like, maybe it's cooperatives,
Yeah.
There's just it doesn't even have to be the framework of an institution, but we can redesign the hive.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I just wanted to say that, for me, that I'm going to use both those comments, and that's exactly right. It's like, where do I have privilege, and how can I use that as a wedge to open and uplift people like Sarita, right? To bring them to the forefront so we could shine light you know what Sarita says, like that makes sense. That makes sense in my brain. That makes sense in my heart, in my gut, right? I'm a truthy guy, like Stephen Colbert used to say. There's a truthiness to it. That's probably not a good example, but you know, I feel her. I can feel her. I know she's right. I know that's right. And if I can open a door for someone like her or other folks like her, I think that's very important. I used to be very uncomfortable about that. Like, I'm in this place, and I have but you know, I think it's important for us to turn our place of privilege into advocacy. Right, I have a certain privilege as a male. You know, if I keep my mouth shut, I look like a white male. You know, and I use that. I try to use that to gain access and open it up for my peoples, for my comunidad. You know, to bring other languages into it. Not, you know, not just Spanish, but just like Sarita was saying, just open the door to more people to come into the conversation. The last thing I just want to throw in there is not just the board. We got to open it up to the audiences. You know, when you put $75 tickets, you're sending a message to who? The people on the outside, poor people. Like, that's not for me. That's not for me. And so how can the audience dictates the art, right? That scares the board because they pay for it. And so, like, how can we make all of that diverse and equitable, right? Not just for people of color, but for poor people. Just open up that access and that conversation to all of us, to all of us. And it's happening because of people like Sarita, right? Because of people like Carla and Rodrigo. You know, we're engaging in this conversation, and hopefully having the courage to stick to it.
Homie?
Yeah, me too. No, I'm not. Yo, hey, you know, I'm not stepping back. But you know, I want to recognize that you know, there are people that are smarter, that are more passionate, and I think it's as important to uplift others. Like, I think people of color and artists, we're used to fighting for ourselves because no one's gonna fight for us. If you don't fight for you, no one will. And I think I want to bring that. I want to uplift those around me too, right? I see Sarita struggling over there. I want to reach over and be like, let's go, girl. I got you. You know, I'll be the wind at your back, you know? And so if we do that for all of us, for each other, imagine esa comunidad. No, wow, man, we just on a whole other level, we won't need them. Or whatever that is, we'll have created something beautiful, equitable, that lifts people up. So you got another hour. You got another hour. We'll just keep going.
Ready? Just warming up. Right?
Bring it on.
Hey, I just want to throw this out there because I've been meaning to say this all day. But I got memories in my mind of, you know, like lifting Sarita up in House on Mango Street. You know, I viene lift, agarra Sarita. Here we go. Woo! And Rodrigo fighting with Rodrigo. You know, the coyote in Arrivaca. And I have to say, one of my favorite memories is Blood Wedding, and you turn around and you see that beautiful giant moon in the background, and then Carla's going dancing with a mannequin across the back row. So you know, I just love the familia and the memories, and this is what has uplifted me all these times, and so I love being a part of that and having that.
You know, there is so much that I like to summarize, and it's just my mind goes in all these different directions. I think that, you know, just to make a comment on what you just said, you all three said, I think it is important to be very intentional in what we do and avoid, you know, paternalistic behaviors of like, oh yeah, you know, and I know what's best for you, therefore I'm going to decide for you. And be very intentional about change and recognize that we will face hard questions and we might not have an answer, and that's okay. But we need to be willing to go there. Otherwise, again, you know, we become complacent and remain in this status quo that continues to perpetuate all these issues. And, you know, one of the things that I feel very, very proud about Teatro Visión currently, that is a consequence of all the work that has been done from the beginning with Elisa and everybody that worked with her, that now we are seeing young people taking the stage, which personally has been a dream of mine, because I reflect myself on those younger folks now being on stage and remembering when I was their age and I wanted to be like, like the actors that I was watching. And I cannot thank you enough, the three of you, for bringing your voices, because your voices are inspiring, and I'm sure they're going deeper into all the youth that are watching and will be watching this and seeing, this trio of very talented individuals, but also very passionate and very committed to make a change. It's just wonderful. I think, Sarita was saying there's a lot of lessons that are happening, but I think that you all share some very important reminders of who you are as artists and human beings. Carla mentioned we need us more than ever. It's so true. It's so deep, and it's a reality that must continue, because that ever is today, tomorrow, the next day, and on. And yes, it's true. We will find another path, and we will find it because we're resilient and because we're creative. And I think, if anything, I really, what Sarita said resonates a lot with me, in remaining still and be okay with it and saying no with intention. It's so important. And we will be around forever because we have not left. We are present. Even when people are not seeing us, we are present, and we will continue to be. But hopefully, in this collective effort as artists and as community, we can make sure that things do not go back to where they were before. And with that, I really want to thank you, and I want to invite you for another session, because hay mucho jugo, hay que sacarle esta plática. I want to thank, seriously, Gendel, I think you brought those memories that came just like images, but so many other memories that had happened. And it's so important to recognize those who paved the way for us, recognize that we are building roads and paths for those who are coming behind us. And those who are coming behind us are also doing a lot of work to remain present. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for your time, for your comments, your honesty. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who was present in this conversation entre amigos. And I hope there is another opportunity for us to be together here. And I'm sure we will be seeing each other again. And like someone said, we will be seeing each other under the stars. Thank you very much, familia. Esto fue La Hora del Mitote. Nos vemos el próximo viernes a las 7 in our channel of Facebook and YouTube. Muchas gracias, Gendel Hernández, Sarita Ocón, Carla Pantoja. Muchísimas gracias y hasta la próxima.
Gracias a ti, Rodrigo. Hasta la próxima. Adiós. Hasta pronto.